Welcome to Speaking Opera. My name is Howard Hart, and I'll be your host today. I have a special guest. The last time I saw our special guest, he was dressed as Louis XIV, but I'm going to let you explain why. It's somebody that I've seen dance before, that I know. We've had some wonderful conversations, and he is so kind as to come today to talk to us about dance and how it is used in opera, and also some of the various experiences that he's had with groups and so forth. Anyway, enough about me. It's about Carlos Fittante. Carlos, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Howard. Thank you very much for inviting me. And to complete your thought, you recently saw me in full costume as
Yes.
Louis XIV, because I am a Baroque dance specialist. And so I was performing a dance called the Chaconne de Phaeton, and it was published, I believe, in 1704. And it's a choreography. There's actually a written notation that King Louis said, our dancers are so wonderful, devise a way to keep them forever. So there's a written notation like there's music notation for the movement. It's called Beauchamp Foyer notation. And so yes, I have the score, the movement score, and it's what I do to stay happy. I practice in my little apartment or in the living room and read the score and look at the movements, and of course putting on the costume and the wig and just the touch of makeup and the heel shoes that really transforms how I feel. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention to our listeners and viewers that the first time I ever saw you was with the Boston Early Music Festival, and you were dressed as Louis XIV in a very beautiful production of Versailles.
Yes, that was a Versailles Portrait of a Royal Domain, I believe, is the full title, and it was the conceit of Gilbert Blanc, who's the stage director of the Boston Early Music Festival. And it was an honor and a thrill to dance. And they do a big production every 2 years in the summer for their festival, and then they do a chamber work, which I believe happens every Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so the Versailles production was a smaller one, but Gilbert was very happy with it. So it's sort of a, yeah. So
It had all the bells and whistles. Do you remember the costumes and the scenery? Everything was so beautiful. And I think the scenery, they even went back to some of the original concepts. Right?
Yes, Gilbert is a scenic designer as well. So, you can imagine he directs you with the dramatic intent, and then he's also painted the picture with the scenery quite literally, and that you're coming to life in. So it's a very complete experience. And then the music is of a very high level with Stephen Stubbs and Paul Odette as the music directors. So yeah, I worked with them about 2 decades. My gosh, so. That was sort of towards the end of my time with them, so it was a wonderful apex, I would say.
Oh.
Yeah.
When Carlos was a little boy, how did this all start? When did your interest in dance begin?
Yes, well, first of all, I want to say I love dance. I'm in for dance for a lifetime, and I want to come back as a dancer if there's reincarnation, and I want to learn every dance style there is. So for me, the experience of moving the body to express your feelings and the idea of entering into a world of aesthetics through your body and ideas. It's just endlessly fascinating, thrilling, gratifying. So I was a natural dancer, I would say, as a little boy. At parties or something, I was shy, but when music would come on, I just can't stop myself. I got to dance, right? But I didn't think about being a dancer. And it's very interesting because my mom was born and raised in Madrid, Spain. My dad is Italian American, and they met when he was in Madrid, just out of the service, studying Spanish. And my mom was a Spanish classical dancer, and I can tell you a little bit more about like what does that mean exactly. And she was a singer,
Ah.
and so when cut to growing up in Massachusetts, in Salem, Massachusetts, my parents have their family. I'm one of three sons, and I remember my mom coming home from school, and my mom would be playing the castanets as she's doing the laundry, or you know, she maintained her Spanish culture and root. We visited Spain, but also like all the music, like back then it was cassettes. I heard all this amazing, very unfamiliar, like not American pop music
Oh.
growing up, and she would sing along. So to come back to your question, like as a kid, I saw dance, I saw music, and I was always spellbound by my mother's beautiful arm movements and the castanets, and I just thought it was amazing. But I never thought of being a dancer. And so my dad was a mathematician and a college professor, and so I think his presence really emphasized learning, the importance of education, and knowledge, and and he would say to us, you have to, education is very important, and always give, do what your teachers ask of you. So we were really emphasized like to aspire educationally, and not so much artistically. Thought not inhibited, but it wasn't something. Oh, I wonder if the boys. My other two brothers are not interested in the art so much, also. So, but so it wasn't until I was in high school. I thought I was going to be a doctor.
Really?
Yeah, I was
very
very
interesting.
very fascinated by the body, and I remember as a little boy I would get a biology book and draw all of the muscles and the bones, and name them, and then try and memorize it just for fun. So I thought, oh, I'll be a doctor. I can help people, and and there's knowledge, and there's the body, and it was like a very meaningful aspiration. And I was in high school, and I played the violin, and it was a dare. Some my peer group said, we dare you to audition for the local musical theater production. So again, I'm a very shy kid, right? And so I don't know why, I just did it. So, and I got cast, and I got cast. It was Oklahoma, so I got cast as the comedic Ali Hakim, but I also got thrown into the dance course because they needed people. And as much as I enjoyed the whole experience, and it was quite a awakening for me, I was madly in love with dancing, and that's when I realized that there was something that I really needed to explore. And so I, the next year, on my own, took a ballet class at a local studio, and we did like one movement called passe, where you draw your foot up the side of your leg and you place it by your knee, and I was like, that's it, I'm in love. And I knew it. I
I
said, that's
love
it.
that. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful story.
I recognized it, and I said, that's it, I'm going to be a dancer. And it was so clear for me. It was so absolutely, I had discovered something so fundamental and like a calling. So I feel and I know every artist is different. So, you know, I have colleagues who do it and achieve wonderful success and then want to have a family. But there are those dancers that feel like it's a calling. And so I felt that. And then graduating from high school, I did start studying locally, and Jimmy Ray was one of my first teachers in Salem, Massachusetts. But I knew that I needed to go to a dance center. And it's so interesting because, sorry I'm going on so long, but I'll just keep talking.
No, this is great. No.
In high school, around that time, I had a best friend, and he was super talented in painting and drawing. He was just, I can't draw a straight line or any, well, straight line's hard, right? But he said, "Oh, I'm going to go look at Parsons in New York City. You want to go for the weekend?" And I said, "Sure, I'll go." And I, didn't know really much anything about New York. So we went to Parsons. I think we were 16 or 17, and he did his school thing. And I was just like spellbound, dumbstruck by the tall buildings and the concentration of people and the vibrancy. And so this is before I knew I wanted to dance. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I want to live here." And so I went back home. I didn't say anything. So I know I want to live in New York. I'm in high school and shy. And then I discovered dance. And I know I want to be a dancer. Oh my gosh, I want to be a dancer. And where else better than in New York City? So that was really, at 18, I moved to New York. And my mom, she, "Oh my God, my son, he's so young, he doesn't know anything." It was really quite, they say, angels fear to go where fools are fear to tread, something to that effect. But she came with me, and she said, "I'm going to call upon my Spanish connections." And so she helped me find a sublet. And then I had another friend, Suzanne Tai, who had just moved there. And so she helped me find a busboy job. And then I auditioned for the Joffrey Ballet School, and I got a scholarship. So that was it. That's all I needed. Was I had my dance, I had some income, and a place to stay. And I just stayed put.
That's an amazing beginning of your journey.
Yeah, the fact that I discovered New York, and then shortly thereafter I discovered dance, and that I felt really deep inside myself that I wanted those two things for my future. So it was a big change, because then I remember telling my folks, "Well, I'm not going to go to college. I want to be a dancer." And that was, they were like, "What? A dancer?" And, I do, I hear stories sometimes when young adults are carving out their life, and then they say, "Well, my parents are worried." And I think it must be very frightening for a parent to hear the aspirations of their child, and that they choose something that's not, how do you make a living as a dancer? How do you survive? Like, what, it's not a well-known road. So I can appreciate how hard that was for them.
It's interesting. I was 30 when I moved to New York, and I was going to go for 5 years. I ended up living there for 36.
Mm-hmm.
My father, who always encouraged me, I know now, I didn't, when I was younger, I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." But what he told me, and so many times what he would say to me was so true. And one was, you have to learn how to take care of yourself. You have to start working early. And it was a difficult time when I was growing up, in many ways, especially financially. And I learned how to take care of myself because of my father. I didn't know at the time, when I was scooping ice cream at 15 or 16, but this is what it was going to have to be for a while. But the one time my father was frightened, in a way, about my life, although he had been a merchant marine and traveled around the world,
Wow.
was when I moved to New York. And if you asked me today, name three things in your life that changed everything about your life, I would have to say the first would be moving to New York at 30 years old and having a whole other kind of world to open up. So enough about me, but I did, when you mentioned your mother, I also think you might be the only person I know whose mother played the castanets while she was doing various things around the house. I love that story. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's amazing. She'd be like,
Wonderful.
and now I play the castanets.
You do?
Yes, and she was my first teacher. So,
Excellent. So it was passed on.
Yes, yes. I didn't start playing them. You know, it's funny because growing up, my mom, with her being from Spain, she had a friend who had the Boston Flamenco Ballet Company, Simon Blasco, and he was a real visionary pioneer. I mean, even think about having a Boston Flamenco Ballet Company. It's not something that everyone's going to think of, right? And so he worked really hard to establish the company and to, make ends meet. And finally, towards the end of his directorship, it really was prospering. But I remember him coming to the house, and my mom and he were like brother and sister. And he would, express his worries, and she would, bring him food and just give him a place where he could just be understood. And they were always, of course, speaking in Spanish. And when she said, "Oh, my son is, he wants to be a dancer, and he's in New York now," and he said, "Oh, he should come and dance with me." And so, now it's like, I wish I were a Spanish dancer, like a flamenco or a Spanish dancer that I had started earlier. But at that time, I was so focused on ballet. And I remember him offering me, like, well, you just come and we'll give you some easy stuff, and you'll go on the road with us, and you'll learn, just by doing. And I was so, I didn't trust that I would be able to. I wanted to do a good job at whatever I was doing. So I knew I had to study, and I thought that ballet, with its precision and its physical demands, would be like a good structure or a good platform for me to go into my life of dance. So I declined, and maybe that was an opportunity lost. But anyhow, I am doing some form of Spanish dance, and it's very satisfying. Yeah.
When you moved to New York at 18, which is very young.
Yeah.
So how did, after you started studying, what happened after that at that period of your life?
So I remember the Joffrey Ballet School was 3, sometimes 4 classes a day. So it was a very rigorous training program. And I basically had class from 9 until 3. And then I would have to go and bus tables from 4 until 2 a.m. And that was, the Joffrey was 6 days a week. The busing I had to do at least 4 days a week to pay my share of the rent. That was really hard. But, I was, and the living situation was a studio apartment. And so the person who was in the apartment, as a favor to my mom, I was supposed to just be there a little while. She rented out the foyer, just like the front entrance to her apartment. So I had like a little roll-up mat, and I slept right by the door. And then, and she had the inner chamber of the studio. And so basically, I was, bussing tables, sleeping in the foyer, going to ballet class, and that was my routine, my life. But it was so thrilling. I was, I think when I tell people, or I think back on it, like that's kind of a hard thing to do. But I was so happy to be dancing, and then to be dancing. I certainly was not the best at all. I was in an atmosphere where there were other students who'd been dancing their whole lives, from 8 to 18, and so I was around lots of talent. And everyone had their dream, their ambition, their goals. I remember it was international students from Alaska, places that I just couldn't imagine. So, and then there's the New York. New York becomes like a presence in your life, a friend, or if not a friend, New York can be an indifferent family member, right? New York, I'm back.
Occasional challenges
yes,
here
yes.
and there, but that's okay too. It sounds like the beginning of your time in New York. It has a magical quality in its own way. It's amazing what we can do also, maybe under a certain age, whatever that might be, when you have more energy and also your dreams are coming true.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, if you're really following your heart, and your name's Heart, right? You're following what really is makes you happy, then the details, they just resonate differently. So I knew it was hard what I was doing, and certainly, but what I was building was just so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It really, I don't want to say it didn't matter, but it just, the good certainly outweighed the challenge. Yeah. And then that was, I'll be dating myself, but that was in New York. Then we had the AIDS crisis, and that was just a very, such a frightening time. I lost so many friends and colleagues, and it just was devastating to the arts community and to dance, so, but dance kept me on the straight and narrow. Like I lived like a monk, if you will.
So you took the veil.
I was married to dance, and I just I wasn't, I didn't put substances in my body. I really didn't drink. I ate in order to have energy for class, and so, and that's not uncommon, I think, in dance, especially when you're building initially. You're building your technique, and you're and your ballet is such a demanding art form. So I think maybe that's a good thing that dance kept my world very safe in a kind of way. And it's interesting now because from the Joffrey, then I went to another teacher, and Madame Darvish, and she was quite a character. And I remember she used to demonstrate twirling, spinning pirouettes, and she had these big goggles on, so she would take her stance to turn, and then she would start turning, and then hold her glasses with her index finger on her on her face as she spun around twice. It was so funny. But it shows you the kind of character that she had, a lot of passion. And then I was fortunate, and I auditioned for the School of American Ballet, and I was accepted. I never thought that would happen. And so that's the School for New York City Ballet. And that was a much more, I don't mean this in a negative sense, like they had a more corporate, it was bigger. City Ballet is big. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. They had these beautiful studios in the Juilliard building back then. And talent from everywhere. Classes were bigger than the Joffrey. So it was definitely I was going to say a step up, but I don't, it depends. It's not necessarily bigger isn't necessarily better. So, but I was there on scholarship for 2 years, and then it was clear that I wasn't going to advance from the school into the company or any of the satellite companies. So that's when I said, well, okay, I just want to dance. And it was very interesting at City Ballet. I met a number of really talented young dancers who said, if I don't get into New York City Ballet, then I'm going to quit dancing. Or if I don't get into American Ballet Theater, then I'm going to quit. So they had very specific goals, and some of the highest that you could aspire to, those two, name brand companies. And that was something that I I couldn't understand. Like, how can you're so good, and how could you not want to dance though, right? But it really was, it was a deal breaker for them. So that was not me. I just knew I wanted to dance. Yeah. And that became I would say the fundamental attitude of my whole career. So, which was, sort of going more the freelance way, building a place for myself in the dance community. So I left SAB, and then I said, I looked for work, and I got hired for this project and that project. And one of my first jobs was dancing at the Met Opera. So that was my
I
first.
saw that on the listing. I was
Yeah.
really impressed.
That was
really,
my
excellent.
first experience in an opera as a dancer, and it was I'll tell you a quick story because I will never forget. So I was like the second cast. I was really green, and the Met dancers, the Met Ballet, were very accomplished dancers and were some of the best paid at that time. I don't know if it's the same now. So that was a good job if you got into the Met. So I was second cast. And I think the dancers felt like, oh, Carlos, let's give him a chance. Let's let him do one show. So the guy that I was covering, he called out so that I could do the show. And it was Aida. And so we're in our little, I don't know, gladiator costumes, right? And the chorus, that ba 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 bum, and so we're coming up through beneath the stage, and it's rising, and here we are in our little pose, and I looked out, and that's a huge house. It's like 3,000 seats.
4,000.
Oh, 4,000. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I saw all of that ocean of space, and then the orchestra was playing, and then the chorus on stage was singing, and every hair on my body stood up. I tell you, I felt like I was going to die. I was floating out of myself, frankly. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall. I don't know if I can even stand up. And then the music came on, and I just twirled around and did my steps, and I stayed. And I did fine, but it was such an out-of-body experience, the impact of the scale of it, and the grandeur of it. Yeah. So that was very, very exciting. And that was, then we went, into the season. They offered me to another season. And, I really wanted to dance more. So I turned it down. I said, thank you so much. I'll never forget, but I wanna dance a lot. And so I felt like if I stayed for another season, I would be, second cast again, and I wouldn't have the opportunity. So it was not just the rehearsal, but the performing was important to me, and always was important to me, because I feel performing is the I think all movement has a spiritual dimension to it, a spiritual aspect to it, but performing especially so because you're in community with an audience. And so there's this big loop. They're looking at you. Their feelings are going into the character, and you're emitting towards them, and so there's this big connection. And then there's the over voice of the creator, the choreographer, the music, like the masters are present. And then there's the heavenly spirits, the father or mother, whatever you want to say. There's that. So there's just this macro connection. And there's something spontaneous about it too. So no matter how much you plan and prepare, at least for myself, there's another element that comes that you just can't simulate in rehearsal because of all this new other energy that's present in the experience. So I knew I wanted to perform a lot. And so I declined. So there's a good example of not being practical, but knowing what my passion was. And so I think that's always been a kind of a voice that I've listened to. Like, am I feeling that I'm doing what I want to do? So then I left the Met, and then it's funny because I left the Met, and then I had to go back to restauranting to pay my bills. And I remember I was working as a waiter in a very trendy place, and they had 24-hour service. So I sometimes often did the wee hours of the morning, and these two successful painters came in, and they were a little bit eccentric in that they loved living in the 19th century. So they would come in with their top hats, and they tried not to use modern technology and all of that. And I remember they were looking at me like, "Oh, are you a dancer?" And I said, "Yes." And waiting tables was my social life, basically, because I got to meet people. I was making money, and it was interesting to see different people. And they said, "Well, we really believe that if you're an artist, you have to not do another job. You have to just jump into the ocean of your art and float and let life bring you success," that type of thing. And they had talked about the writings, the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, I believe, their affirmations. And so it really impressed me what they had said. And so I quit the restaurant job and said, "Okay, life, I quit the Met, I quit the restaurant job. Now I want to dance," right? So I got a job. I did get a job miraculously, and I was hired for a project with the Universal Ballet in Seoul, Korea. And in the chorus and the ensemble, and again, there was green, and my technique was not the astounding type of technique, but I had other qualities. And I came back to New York after that project was done, and then I got hired with the New York Theater Ballet, which is still in and quite successful now, continuing on. And they specialize in the Cecchetti style ballet, so a more 19th century. Margot Fontaine was trained in the Cecchetti method. And so that was fascinating to me because it was a whole nother approach to ballet technique. And at first, I even, coming from SAB, I was very critical of it. Oh, the broken wrists, and it looks so artificially sweet, and but then I really grew to appreciate its sound anatomical principles, and the dancers, they really could do anything. And with that company, I had my first national tour with a Columbia artist booked New York Theater Ballet for a 6-week tour, different venues across the country. And so we even got as far as Lincoln, Nebraska and Iowa, dancing in high school auditoriums. And so that was a hard job because it was one night or one night stands. You'd go, you'd perform, you'd drive, you'd go to your next performance ends, and we even had to carry the floor, the linoleum floor on our shoulders and roll it out. And so it was we had no crew per se, right? So I didn't mind. I enjoyed it, but there was something about I didn't feel like that was my future. And I remember I turned down they renewed my contract, and I spoke to the director and said, I have other aspirations. And so again, that I was looking I wanted to be fulfilled in what I was doing. And there was also something about the ballet environment, which is very hierarchical. And at that time, directors could be mean. And I remember walking to rehearsal, and sometimes the director, maybe it was me. I'm not going to blame anyone, but I didn't I didn't like how I was feeling, and I remember thinking, if a stranger came up on the street and started, abusing me verbally or disrespect, I wouldn't stand for that. I would say, I would defend myself. I would, put them in their place, whatever. And I thought, why would I let a boss do that to me? Like my values as a person, I I'm not going to stand for it in life. So why? Because I'm in this dance company, would I stand for that? And so I was determined. I said, no, I'm not. It's important to me that where I work, that there's like a politeness and mutual respect and esteem for each other. So a kind of camaraderie that's just basic, decency. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think when those harsher expressions happen, it may not be that they're indecent, but there's an old practice of sternness, and and you're in dance, you're dealing with your body image, and so it can be very traumatizing. So I knew also then, so I guess I'm stubborn. I was like, well, so I left New York Theater Ballet, and then I got hired around the same time, both by the Balam Dance Theater and by the New York Baroque Dance Company. And so these were two niche styles. I was thrilled to be hired because I wanted to work. And at that point, I really wasn't working in restaurants anymore. And so I was somehow, living on peanut butter and rice, like, able to piece together a living. But it was very, always that part of the experience is very stressful, of course, the financial uncertainty. But in any case, the Balam was Balinese inspired, and then the Baroque was this whole other world that I hadn't really no idea what it was all about, and there was a lot of scholarship involved in those styles because they're connected to culture and history, and so I liked that. I liked reading. I liked with the Balinese, even going to Bali and having a first-hand experience and talking to the performers there, and with the New York Baroque Dance Company, looking at the senior company members, and Catherine Tarosi, who was knighted, so she's outstanding, and so it was so much to learn, to read the treatises, and when I would get part of my career has always been like choreographing, performing, and teaching. Because if let's say a festival or a school brings me in, can you make a piece? Sure, I'll make a piece for your students. I'm making a piece. Then I have to teach them about these styles. What is Balinese dance, or what is the fusion if I'm mixing it with contemporary forms, right? So I was always, early on in my career, explaining, teaching, analyzing, understanding myself, and then trying to find, also with the Balinese, culturally it's a different set of movement preferences. So for me, it was not easy to embody, and so I had to devise like little shortcuts. Say, oh, if you think of it like this, things that I discovered through my body, through trial and error. So that was part of the teaching process too. So I think I'm a good teacher. I enjoy teaching, and but always in service to dance. Yeah. And it was so the teaching sort of, I got hired, someone recommended me, I got hired. I taught at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute in New York, Movement for Actors. down by Union Square, and that was fascinating to see what the actors were doing. And I took about a year of the method just to know what they were doing and how can I make my information useful to them. And I have great regard and esteem for actors. They're so bright, and how they can just tap into emotions and become characters through language and, of course, posture and all of that. So, and then around after a while there, I was recommended. Rachel List, who's directing the dance department at Hofstra, recommended me for Queens College, City University of New York, and I was hired there, and I'm still there. Yeah.
I want to ask you, actually, this is a good time to ask you in case I forget. You have a website or information on what you're doing, especially at the moment. So would you like to mention that? And we'll put it on the screen so that people who are watching can see it, but also you'll have to tell us what it is.
Oh,
so
sure.
Can you?
Yes. The Balam Dance Theater was founded by Eileen Pinder in 1979. And she was a CUNY professor and a movement researcher. So she had both a scientific and academic, and then she was a choreographer. So she had this really wonderful New York Jewish woman, rich combination of academia, movement research, and then creativity. And so she founded the company, and so this is to answer your question about the website. So the website is called, the name of the company is Balam Dance Theater, and Balam is short for Balinese American. Balam Dance Theater, because Eileen was passionate about Balinese dance, and she wanted to bring the Balinese aesthetic into modern forms in New York. And she hired me, and I was a dancer. And then at a certain point, she said, I have to give up the company. It's just too hard to run by myself. And I said, Eileen, don't give up the company. New York City, which is such a fabulous place, must have its Balinese fusion company as well. So really, in service to Eileen and to New York, I said, I will be your assistant. And so I was like, I just volunteered and I did whatever she asked me to do. And of course, when you're working one-to-one, one-on with another person like that, I would hear her explanations. I started to really learn from her about her studies in Bali, her movement analysis, framing of the Balinese movement, and then her building it into her CUNY courses. So it was such a wonderful apprenticeship, without even knowing that that's what I was doing. And so the company's Balam Dance Theater. And when Eileen passed on in 2012, I am now the director. And so I have brought to the company, I've expanded it. I love the Balinese dance, and I do the Balinese dance. But I've expanded it to include the other things that I love, and the dancers as well. So we have the ballet point, and we have Baroque dance, because I love Baroque dance. And I've been specializing in Spanish escuela bolera. So there's the castanets, and it's a form of Spanish dance. And then one of the Balam dancers, Toshinori Hamada, he's a no theater specialist. He sings, he dances, he's really remarkable. So whatever the company, whatever aesthetics are in the dancers, this is what Eileen would say, is what we work with. And the website it's actually a blog that we use as a website.
That's fine.
So it's just Balam Dance Theater, believe .blogspot.com is what it's called. Yeah, it's a Google blog. So, but if you Google us at Balam,
Right.
And it's been fascinating. So what's I think, because I was reflecting, it's so interesting. I went into the Baroque and the Balinese from a ballet background at the same time, and I've maintained both for decades now, and I use both in each other. And so, I mean, a very vivid example of that is when my last visit to Bali, which was quite a while ago, I performed some Baroque dances for the gamelan, the ensemble of dancers and musicians, the Balinese, and they loved it. They loved it. They understood it without studying it. They got the feeling of it. They appreciated the detail of the movement, and being a character, and the beauty, the layering of the costume, and so that was very exciting, and likewise when I'm creating my Baroque works. For example, I have a Baroque bird dance. What do I call it? The Golondrina Galante, the little the gallant Golondrina. What is that? That's in English. Golondrina. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm sure either. Trying to think of it.
Sparrow.
Oh, because it's
Yes.
similar to the Italian.
Yes.
I was kind of doing a reverse, trying to think.
Sparrow, the gallant sparrow. So
Right.
Yumiko comes out and she's masked and she's got the panniers, but she's wearing hand carved Balinese wings, and it looks perfect. You would never think that those golden jeweled wings don't belong in her Baroque dance. So there's like parallels. There are two court traditions, so there's that, right? And there's a sense of opulence, there's that. And then there's a scale of movement, detail. There are certainly clear differences. But what fascinates me is how to find where cultures overlap. In aesthetic ways, to create something that leans into one and another, and in that place it has, maybe it's ambitious, but it's got a kind of universal resonance, and I think that's so wonderful, and it's endlessly fascinating to me, because I think it affirms, like, we're all people, and basically that we can all understand each other. So it's a very interesting experience to have those two rich court traditions, and then how they can support each other, and then and it's very Baroque to take something new and do your own inspired impression of it. So it's in the attitude of both as well. Yeah.
Carlos, I want to thank you so much for coming today to share your story with us, your journey, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you have a lot going on in your life right now, and I look forward to seeing you again, whether you're dressed as Louis XIV or not. I will see one way or the other, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you for doing this today for our audience.
Oh, thank you so much, Howard. And it really got me reliving all these experiences and memories and feelings and thoughts. So that was, it's a wonderful gift for me at the start of a new year. So thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Speaking Opera focuses on documenting the career activities of currently active singers, composers, musicians, and authors in the field of operatic performance and scholarship, and specialists in the field of audio recording, as well as those who have retired fully or partially from performing and/or teaching. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.